What is going on, everybody? It is Mike Charlotte once again coming at you on my website, MikeJC.com. And this is my officially second episode of my audio blog on my website. For a while I was doing a written blog. I am going to continue to do a written blog down the line. I just got to find a good topic to write about. I could be writing about what I'm talking about today, but I figured it'd be better to talk about it considering the situation. As everybody knows by now, before day of recording, a lot of releases happened today in WWE. This is coming off of WWE really trying to stay on live television during this pandemic, and Vince McMahon basically saying in a conference call that people were going to lose their jobs, and literally not even hours after that, the list started growing and growing and growing, and it apparently is going to continue. There's a rumor going around that there might be over hundreds of firings, and that's pretty crazy to me. But as of right now, as of what we know of 37 total firings or furloughs. And if you don't know what a furlough is basically a company mandated leave of absence. So it's basically you're not fired, you're just not working for the time being without pay. So, unfortunately, a lot of people are losing their jobs today and possibly tomorrow. And this is all because Vince McMahon is determined to keep doing live television while he's losing money from the live event standpoint and the no audience standpoint of this pandemic. And I am pretty sure that none of these firings would be happening if it wasn't for this pandemic, if it wasn't for everything that's going on in the world right now. And I think there's a couple of factors. I don't know if the XFL is playing a factor, because as we all know by now, the XFL is done again. And I can't say I'm not surprised, but it's unfortunate, and the reason it happened is because of this pandemic. Because it was done correctly this time. Vince McMahon tried really hard to get this done and to get it to work again, even losing money and earmarking his own money, over $500 million of his own money to make this work. And even if there would have been a full season, he was still going to lose money. That's how determined he was to get this to work. And unfortunately, with the pandemic, it was just there was no saving it. And again, I don't know if that is playing a factor in these firings as well, but I know for a fact that this pandemic is definitely playing a factor. And it's very unfortunate, but I have the list of names here, and I'm going to go through them and discuss them for the best of my ability and my feelings on them. So total, there's 20 wrestlers, and like I said, 37 people total. And some of them are agents, some of them are producers, some of them are announcers, some of them are writers, and some of them are coaches. So I will go through the entire list that I have right here. On the wrestler side, we have Lio Rush, Eric Young, Kurt Hawkins, Heath Slater, Drake Maverick, EC3, Gallows and Anderson, Sarah Logan, Eric Rowan, Primo and Epico, Maria and Mike, Noe Jose, Zack Ryder, Rusev, a unknown that I'm aware of named Alexander Jaksic, Deonna Purrazzo, and MJ Jenkins. Now, out of all of these people, the ones that hurt me the most, but the ones that are probably the most surprising, are Lio Rush, EC3, Gallows and Anderson, and Rusev, and Deonna Purrazzo. All of those people, it is a crime that they were never, ever used to their full potential in WWE. It is a crime. Rusev should be a former world champion. Rusev is so good at everything that he does, and this one hurts a lot because I've always seen the upside in Rusev, and I've always said that he was a future world champion, and I think that that's still the case. It just won't be in WWE. He's going to end up somewhere else, whether it be New Japan once this pandemic is over, or AEW, or ROH, or even TNA. Wherever he goes, he's going to be a world champion. I am sure of that. I could even come close to guaranteeing that. Lio Rush, huge upside, very young, very good at everything. In-ring work, mic work, had the potential to be a upper mid-card talent that could carry the Intercontinental title, the US title in the future. And like I said, he's very young. He's got a lot of time to get even better, if that's even possible. And wherever he goes, again, definitely gonna flourish wherever he goes. Deonna Purrazzo, now I was one of the people who was speaking highly of her every single time she would be on TV, and every single time she would job out to somebody. She was being wasted more than any woman on the roster right now, because they had her for a while and they literally did nothing with her. I never ever saw her in a program, in a storyline. She was always that person that was used to make returning people look better, or to make the stars look better. The jobber to the stars, basically, is the term in the wrestling business. And I always thought that she was way, way better than that. And I could totally see her going to AEW and them building the division around her. That's how good she is. She is such a great worker, such a great wrestler, trusted enough, obviously, to work with people who have been injured, or to make anybody look good. But she's way more than that. She's such a good talent. And Gallows and Anderson, those guys just signed new deals. They just signed 5-year deals, and they were content with where they were. But again, they were also wasted talent. They were also just sitting around or being AJ's lackeys or doing absolutely nothing when they could have been building a tag team division around them. They could have been top heels in a tag team division. And they, even though they had title runs during this run in WWE, they were never, ever treated like a top tag team. They were never, ever treated like they mattered. And out of all the other people I named, literally were just people that were there just to be there. And the majority of the people that I named on the list of wrestlers had potential. All of them had potential. Eric Young had potential. No Way Jose, despite a questionable gimmick, had potential. Zack Ryder, we all know how good Zack Ryder is. He was never used. Kurt Hawkins, same exact thing. Drake Maverick, another one that I don't understand why they signed him to make him a GM, and then they put him in the cruiserweight division very later on, and then just let him go. And then you find out that they're making him work this cruiserweight title tournament, and then he doesn't know what his future's going to be after that. They tell him he's fired, but he's got to work 3 more matches on television. And then they say on television, oh, he's got a lot to prove, and we know why that's the reason. He got fired. And it's just, it boggles my mind that they would even use that terminology and even say something like that to make somebody like him, who is a very emotional person. He posted a video of himself crying because he was so upset about not really getting a chance to prove himself as a wrestler. And he made a lot of good friends in WWE. And speaking of one of his great friends, EC3, I mentioned him earlier, he is another one. So much potential that WWE didn't see the first time they had him. WWE let him go, and he made a name for himself in TNA, of all places. And then they get him back, and they hotshot him to the main roster and do absolutely nothing with him at all. And that is I keep using this term, but that is a crime. That is a crime to not use the potential of that man, of how good he is as a character and as a worker. He has so much upside that it is ridiculous that they would sign him, have him in NXT for barely a year, and then do nothing. Literally nothing. And it's just, it's a shame that people like these people that I named, who are not getting these opportunities, are being shown the door, while people like Goldberg are making $3 million a match to only work 3 times a year. People like Lesnar are making $12 million a year to work 6 matches. People like, they paid Tyson Fury $15 million to do 1 match in Saudi Arabia. And now that there's a pandemic, they gotta let all these talent go that were just sitting there anyway. It boggles my mind. But everything that Vince McMahon does is to protect Vince McMahon. It's all about the bottom dollar for Vince McMahon. Because as long as he's making money, he doesn't care. He might say that he does. He might say that he cares. He might say that the talent is his family, blah, blah, blah. We hear it all the time. But all he cares about is that bottom dollar. And we know that now. More than ever. Because all of this was done to protect him. And I know that people are going to say, oh, it's business, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sure, it's business. But like I just said, those 3 people that I named, Goldberg, Tyson Fury, Brock Lesnar, all getting paid more than all of those 20 wrestlers that I named combined. And you could have let go of those people. I don't care how much money Brock Lesnar makes, the company. I don't care. Those people are hardworking people. Brock Lesnar is only there for the paycheck. That's a fact. Everybody knows that. So, I don't care if it's best for business to let go of quote-unquote jobbers when those people actually care about what they're doing and care about making money for the right reasons. It's all of it is. This entire situation is ridiculous. And that's not even, I didn't even mention the names of the producers and the agents that were there for so long. Here's the list of producers. Kurt Angle, who, alright, you guys remember there was a WWE 24 documentary about Kurt Angle when he came back the first time for the Hall of Fame and everything. And Kurt Angle and Vince McMahon both made emphasis on the fact that they were like family to each other. But apparently, that doesn't matter to Vince McMahon, because Kurt Angle is no longer with the company because of this. Billy Kidman, another one, there for over a decade, working as producer, working in gorilla position, planning matches with people. He was one of the longest tenured people there, and now he's gone. Mike Rotunda, who people would know as IRS, another one, there for over 10 years as an agent, did so much for the backstage, so much for backstage morale for wrestlers, so much for making matches, and everything like that. Everything that these people have done for the business now means nothing, because Vince McMahon doesn't care. He cares about the money. To continue that list, Fit Finlay. Now, everybody who listens to wrestling podcasts and knows anything about Finlay knows that he is the reason for the uprise in women's wrestling. He is the one who makes that possible. He works with all of the women. He makes all of the women better at what they do, because that's what he loved doing, helping the business grow. And you wouldn't have this women's revolution without him. So that one hurts a lot. People like Sean Daivari, who was not there for long as an agent, but he was definitely probably integral also in that same. Shane Helms is gone as well. Pat Buck is gone. He was helping. Same thing. Scott Armstrong, probably one of the longest tenured agents there as well, also a referee at one point. Sarah Stock, who people will remember from TNA. She, again, probably very good with helping with the women. And it's crazy to me. And then you can also add Lance Storm to that list, who just became an agent in, December? After he finished up with his wrestling school. Now he doesn't have a job. Doesn't have a wrestling school, doesn't have a job. It blows my mind. Also fired today was some coaches. Serena Deeb, who was, people will remember as part of the Straight Edge Society with CM Punk, and she was in the first Mae Young Classic. Very good worker, very good wrestler, also very good coach to the women in NXT. There was a couple of coaches that were also fired. People, not very well known people to WWE fans, but Ace Steel, good worker in the Indies. He was a good coach in NXT for quite a while. And another one who was not there for very long, but I haven't heard too much about him, but apparently he was a good coach as well. Kendo Kashin, Japanese wrestler. Again, these people are out of the job. I again don't know everything about everyone that was fired, but it still, these people are losing their jobs because Vince McMahon needs to protect Vince McMahon, and that's the problem. Announcers, and you might as well add this person as a wrestler because he hadn't wrestled in a while, but whose fault is that? Nobody's but Vince McMahon's. Aiden English, who was more over than he had ever been when him and Rusev were doing the Rusev Day thing. And then they just ended it for a stupid storyline with Lana, which seemed to be the focal point of what was wrong with Rusev. A stupid storyline with Lana. How many of those can we say that Rusev did? A lot. And they all were bad. All of them. And that was the most over Aiden English ever was. And they just ended it and did nothing with him. And not only did that hurt Aiden English, it hurt Rusev. It hurt everybody involved. And I don't think Rusev or Aiden English ever recovered from that stupid storyline. And that storyline was in 2018. Moving on, also fired, the longest tenured referee, Mike Chioda. Mike Chioda, everybody knows who Mike Chioda is. He is probably the best referee WWE ever had. He was there longer than I'm alive. That's how long Mike Chioda has been with WWE. That's ridiculous. And they let him go probably because he was making the most money out of all the referees. And that would not surprise me if that's the reason. And they also let go. Now, this name is not going to be very well known by people, but they'll know why it is significant. Andrea Listenberger. Andrea Listenberger was the only female creative team member. The only one. Now, there was rumors for a while that Ultimate Warrior's wife, Dana Warrior, was part of the creative team, but I doubt she was, and she's still there, contributing as much. But Andrea Listenberger was integral in the Rusev and, in the Otis and Mandy storyline, which people really enjoyed. It was a good storyline that actually went places, and they did it correctly. And that has been one of the biggest problems in WWE for the longest time, is not having a female perspective on storylines exactly like that one. Because you have a man. Now, I'm not gonna say, I have never worked in the wrestling business. I'm not a genius. I just love talking about wrestling. You're not gonna get me to create a storyline like that, because that's not my forte. And to get a woman's perspective on a storyline like that is probably the best thing you could do. And now they don't have that anymore. And it's just, like I said, all of this blows my mind. And I don't understand why this is happening in the first place. Because of Vince McMahon making stupid decisions. That's the only reason this is happening. And you can believe what you want about why this is happening. You can believe what you want about how we got here. The point is that all of these people lost their jobs because of Vince McMahon. And no other person is to blame for this. Vince McMahon is determined to do what Vince McMahon wants. Now, you might say that more than half of those people weren't doing anything anyway, like Primo and Epico, who hadn't been on TV in over a year. Now, for all I know, those guys probably wanted to get fired. They probably wanted to go back to Puerto Rico. They probably don't mind working in Puerto Rico. The point is that when they wanted to be let go, WWE didn't let them go, because for the longest time WWE was holding on to people just so other people couldn't have them. For the longest time, the Revival, who finally got their releases, probably because they were going to get fired in this mass firing anyway, but the Revival were asking for releases for over a year and didn't get them because WWE didn't want AEW to have them. Even though WWE proves time and time again that they do not care about tag team wrestling. The only thing that the Revival cared about They wanted important rivalries. They wanted important storylines, and for tag team wrestling to mean something. WWE never cared about that. Vince McMahon never cared about that, and probably still doesn't. And now they're going to go to AEW, I bet, and have the best storylines ever, and make tag team wrestling better than it's ever been. And Vince McMahon is going to regret letting them go, because now they're going to be more over than they've ever been, and be having matches that they never thought they could have, and be telling stories that they could never tell in WWE. Now, there's reports out there that the whole reason that WWE is going to stay going live during a pandemic is because the government was involved. And knowing what we know about Vince McMahon's relationship with the president, it's very possible that all of this led up to these firings. Now, don't quote me on this. I'm not a reporter. I don't have the inside scoop. This is just reports that I've read. This isn't confirmed, but it does seem pretty fishy, doesn't it? All of this is ridiculous to me. And if more firings are coming, who's next? You know? And you could say all you want that there's a bunch of people on the roster that are just sitting there and not really doing anything anyway, but in this time where there's really nowhere to work right now because nobody is working, independent wrestling is hurting more than ever. It's basically non-existent because of a pandemic, and we don't know when that pandemic is going to end. So for people to lose their jobs in this current climate, and again, this isn't just happening in wrestling, this is happening everywhere. And to me, this was avoidable in WWE. This was 100% avoidable in WWE. Vince McMahon just chose to do what Vince McMahon wanted. And now those people are out of the job. And you could say, again, I'm repeating myself, you could say whatever you want about the situation, about what caused it, whatever. It's always been, and will continue to be, about the money for Vince McMahon. We all know that now, more than ever. And I hope, especially hope, that people like Deonna Purrazzo, Rusev, Anderson and Gallows, EC3, Drake Maverick, Eric Young, and any of these people that I've named throughout this, I hope that they recover from this. I hope that once this pandemic is over, they can still find work. And when the indies are back and running again at full force, that they can make a living doing what they love. And in closing, I just would like to say that a few weeks ago, I didn't comment on this because at the time it wasn't really, I had no reason to comment on it, but a few weeks ago Braun Strowman made some comments in an interview, and he said that if you're struggling making money in professional wrestling, then you probably shouldn't be doing professional wrestling. He basically said, if you're broke, you need to get a new job. And the problem, I don't think he realized the magnitude of that, and I bet he figured it out now, because two of his best friends in the world, Drake Maverick and EC3, are now out of the job, and they can't go to independent wrestling. So I bet that he's eating those words right now, and he feels sorry for them, but he also feels sorry for ever saying it in the first place, because while they're now without a job, he's sitting pretty as the Universal Champion. And he shouldn't even be the Universal Champion. The only reason he is the Universal Champion is because of a pandemic. And again, this is unfortunately the way of the world right now. Everybody is struggling. Everybody is going through a rough time. But all of this in WWE was avoidable. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Again, I don't know what to call this. It's an audio blog. And again, this isn't something I plan to do weekly or something that I plan to do all the time. I guess there's certain topics that are better to talk about than to write about, and certain topics that are better to write about than to talk about. I think that's pretty clear. So down the line, expect more stuff like this, and hopefully I can get a friend on one of these or something, or maybe even start a podcast. I don't know yet. That could happen down the line. Either way, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to me rant about the thing that I love, which is professional wrestling. And I feel for everybody that lost their jobs during this, because it's not easy. And I hope that every single one of these performers are able to bounce back. Every single one of the refs, agents, producers that lost their jobs today or furloughed and will return to their jobs at some point. And like I said earlier, we don't know if it's over yet. The firings could continue and could even be in the hundreds from what I'm hearing. So down the line, again, there might be more, and I feel for all of them. So again, thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting me if you already do. Follow me on Twitter at MikeJC821. Keep an eye on the website, MikeJCOnWrestling.com, for more stuff like this and more articles and for more projects in the future. And that's going to do it for me. Have a good one, everyone.